Okay, we are recording.
Great. Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. And so we're going to do our check-ins. Take about 30 seconds each. Same question as last time. Questions or comments, or how was the empathy buddy call? Something like that. Today we will be doing the facilitation. We will not be doing the how-to presentation. So we'll have a little bit more time for that, and also a little bit more time on our debrief. So I invite you to start your check-in, and I'll start with Sergio, if that's okay.
Okay. That's the price for being the earlier one.
I guess so. Yeah, you're in the left-hand corner. Sorry, guilty.
Okay, I have two talkings in the waiting list, Victoria and Gwen. I hope I will do it this week. Don't be disappointed. I will get in touch. And I feel okay. I feel very open today and glad.
Good. Well, thanks, Sergio. Welcome. Rita.
Hello, good to see everyone's faces across the world. It's always great to, just see people multiple times throughout the week, especially so internationally. And I'm just feeling excited to have the practice today and be here. And I'm just feeling quite peaceful. Thanks.
Great.
I just ask, how was the empathy buddy calls, if you did it? This was something new that we've implemented, and I'm just curious if you have any sort of feedback on it. Is it difficult doing the scheduling or so, Rita and others?
Yep, I got one in for last week with Sue, and that was great. And I got my next one with Diana, who's in Houston on Saturday morning. So scheduling's okay. We connected on WhatsApp, so it's pretty easy.
Alexandra.
I basically had a very long sleep since you guys saw me last. I think I was just exhausted, and so I didn't even check email or anything. I would like to schedule with Michelle. I had tried to schedule with Gwen, and I don't know what happened to us, but I don't know, the sound of one hand clapping, but I'd be thrilled and delighted to try it again. I did have a call with Uli, which was fantabulous. And, the more the better. It's just, life gets in the way. But I will try and get in contact with Michelle, unless we were going to get a new buddy after this class. It seems like it all happens very fast, but anybody that's willing, I would love to even belatedly schedule a call with. So
Great, thanks. Michelle?
Hopefully myself and Alexandra will do a buddy call now in the coming few days and that, but the buddy calls that I had it was really great, really supportive. I'm I guess, how am I feeling today? Probably just a little bit of nostalgia. It feels like the training's kind of been a really, really, really lovely experience, and it's flown by. So I'll be sad for it to finish up.
Thanks, Michelle. Victoria.
I had a wonderful buddy call with David, and it was just fun. It was relaxing, fun, and just listening to someone else, and so it was good. All positive.
Great, thanks, Victoria. Gwen.
I'm feeling a little distracted and stressed, and it's not related to the course. It's just I had to take over a class last minute today, and I have another sort of big thing on Friday that I'm preparing for. So I'm hoping that over time I will get grounded into this session. I have a bit of the same feeling as Michelle, that it's just so weird that after this we're not going to meet as a group again, probably, or who knows, but that's not the plan. So yeah, it feels like it's gone really fast. For the empathy buddy calls, I also did one, which was really, really great. And I haven't gotten around to the other two, also because of my schedule, but also, yeah, just communication is sometimes difficult. But I did already, like, I really like the one-on-one format with the 15 minutes. So I'm going to propose doing that with my mom sometimes. And I'll be curious to see what she thinks of it. But I think it could be really help us sort of discuss in a less aggressive way, essentially. So
Great. And if you need any support or accommodations today, let us know.
thank you. Yes.
Sure.
Is this
Sue.
really our last gathering?
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. The culture of empathy is alive and well, and will continue on, and there'll be ways for you to participate on an ongoing basis. But you know, I won't digress more than that. Sue.
Hi, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I'm excited about today. Really looking forward to it. I've just loved the last couple of weeks. I didn't get to have my buddy call this week with Jennifer, but we've connected and we're going to do it after today. It's just a bit hard with the time difference and work commitments, but we're looking forward to connecting after today.
Great.
Hi, everyone. I'm just looking forward to it.
Great. Good to have you. Uli?
Yeah, I have been a bit stressed after the last meeting. It was just much things. I mean, it's really something like multitasking that is, how do you call it? It's a challenge for me. And yeah, but then I managed to do the buddy call with Sergio yesterday, and that was really significant and meaningful to get to know him as what he's doing and how he's framing the these empathy circles in his life, and it was great. Thank you very much, Sergio, and also appreciate Alex the buddy call with Alexandra before. That was also great, and I hope to do some more. And so I tried to figure out what was happening last session, and today I had 1 hour and I sat down and write in my book and try to figure out and structure things. Yeah. And now I've done that, and very nice introduction now. And now it's not happening today again, but no problem. So, yeah, I'm happy to be back here. I also share the feelings that it's over. What's going to happen now? What I'm going to do now, and all this stuff. Okay, but great to be here. Thank you, everybody.
Great to have you. And Olivia.
Hi, everyone. Am I echoing? No? Okay.
No.
I couldn't get on, so I went on twice. So I may have to go off because it's still open and I'm doubling sound.
Right.
Everything's great. Feel really optimistic about how they can merge into some of our charter work and into the Charter Education Institute. So I'm sort of thinking broad brushstrokes.
Great. And I noticed that Jennifer somehow dropped out. Did she was here and then she's gone. Okay. Maybe you can check, Edwin, and see if she maybe messaged us, sent us a message. David.
Yeah, I feel great. I'm happy to be here. I hadn't really thought about it, but now that everybody's mentioning it, I'm sad that we're not going to see each other again, or at least right away. I I had a great call with Victoria. It was really interesting and fun and felt nice. Yeah.
Great. Lou?
I'm very happy to be here, and also feeling a little sad about this coming to an end. But as Bill mentioned, there will be ongoing ways for you to stay engaged. There's a weekly facilitators support call. So that's a weekly way for you to keep staying engaged. And it also reminds me that I had this idea, which we haven't done yet, of doing cohort reunions. So I think that would be a fun thing to do, like a month from now, have a reunion, see what everyone's doing. And
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
so, yeah, but so I'm anxious to get into circles today, so we have a lot of time to practice.
Mhm. Great. Jennifer, welcome back. We're doing check-ins, the same thing as last week. How you doing? Empathy buddy calls. Just
yeah. No,
doing?
thank you, Bill. I'm doing okay despite some technical difficulties, but it's just had difficulty connecting with both Michelle and Sue, unfortunately. So I've got only one buddy call under my belt, but I'm hoping to connect with both of them within the next couple of days. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. And Edward, check-in. Edwin, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I was hearing everyone was sad about this kind of being the last one, which makes me really happy. It means, wow, people really are enjoying this. They want to keep going. So, this is like, there's this motivation to continue going. I got a bunch of ideas for kind of next steps, which we'll talk about at the end of today. So yeah, excited.
Yeah, and I'm doing well. I had one empathy buddy call. I don't think I was paired up with anybody else, but if I did, I'm sorry, and I'll be happy to do it again if I missed it. And I'm really excited on having taught, what are we on, 5 now? I kind of noticed some momentum building. And so I'm really happy that you guys are enjoying it and getting something out of it, and love to see you again in our ongoing empathy activities. Okay. So today, we're not going to do the how-to, as I mentioned before, and we'll just go into the facilitation practice. And we'll be coming back a little earlier at 5:45, because we'll have a little bit more of a debrief. And then also talk about some of those things, what are ongoing, other possible cohorts, things like that. Okay.
I have one. Yeah. I just want to get something clear. You all will be leading circles, and you will do the introduction when we do it. We just won't do a whole separate section on that. Isn't that correct?
Well, basically, I think it's up to the facilitators.
Okay.
But I think that, so for instance, in my circle, I didn't plan on doing the introduction. If somebody in your facilitation, if any one of you wants to do an introduction and practice it again, I certainly have no, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
And it's a chance to dial up the challenge level, right?
That's right.
It's like
if you want to.
Yeah, if you feel comfortable, it's a chance to spend more time on that.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go.
I think we're ready to go.
Okay, there'll be 2 groups. That was only 3 total. So just to let you know, Bill and Lou, just
okay.
The rest will have 4. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's see, Alexandra, Glenn, Rita. Rita should, there we go, 4 in this group, yay. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we'll each have, how much do we have? Like, we have half an hour, we have an hour and about a half, so it's almost half an hour per person, a little bit less, 25 minutes, let's say, per person. And I'll keep time. Yeah. And so you're facilitating a circle, but You can give the how-to if you want to, how to take part, or just jump right into it and kind of do more with challenges instead. So you can do either or both. It's up to you. You can set the topic. The one topic, I don't know if you're interested in this, I was thinking of is what has been your experience of the training and how would you improve and expand it? So if you're up for that one, that would be a good topic too, but it is your choice. So, and I'll keep time for the 25 minutes. Let me bring up the stopwatch and set the 25-minute time limit. There we go. Okay. Who would like to start? And you can first say, what the challenge level, and if you're going to give the how-to, or just, just say the topic and we'll start. Okay, Alexander, looks like you're ready to go and you're muted.
I said, I guess I'll go. I'm a little bit raw at this, but I might as well do the intro. And I would say challenge level, low, because I'm challenged. Anyway, so my name's Alex, and I'll be leading the Empathy Circle today. And just to give an overview, an Empathy Circle is a structured chance to listen to each other and be heard. There are 3 roles in the circle. There is the listener, the speaker, and silent listener. And I will be the facilitator, basically just maintaining the structure and, helping things move along. And at any point, if you have a question or need to stop, you can, call a timeout to ask a question. One of the most important features of the Empathy Circle is that the speaker has what they're saying reflected to them as it is heard by the speaker. So in order to do that, the speaker needs to pause every few bytes of information that they're sharing so that the reflector can absorb it and reflect it back without getting into too deep with too long. So if you are listening, it's perfectly fine to say to the speaker, can I reflect that back to you? Or do you mind if we pause here? Something like that. If it's going on longer than you think you're going to be able to remember and echo back. Basically, the person listening should do their best to be present, to hear what the speaker is saying, and to reflect it back just as you've heard it, without any additions or subtractions, judgments, or thoughts about it. It's not a place for opinion. It's just to repeat what you've heard. We'll keep going around the circle until everybody has had a chance to be fully heard. When you are the listener, when the speaker that you're listening to finishes their turn, then you will have a chance to speak and pick a listener for yourself. I will be keeping time, and we'll divide up, I'd say probably 4 minutes per person, so that everybody gets a chance. And I'll keep time on a stopwatch here. And when we get to, say, 30 seconds out, I will try and give you I should make a little placard, but I don't have one. I will hold up my hand or hold up a card or something that says time. And if you're speaking, if you could just nod and say that, so that I know that you've seen me. Trying to remember if there's anything else that I've forgotten. There may well be, but if it comes up, I'll try and remember. Basically, if the process is strange, just go with it and it will get more habitual as we go along. And if you have any questions, again, don't be afraid to ask. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. So is there anybody that wants to speak on the topic, which is the facilitate? Gwen.
I can just ask a question here. I'm not quite clear on how we transition from different roles.
Well, when the time is up for each person, or if before time is up, that person feels that they have been heard, they're complete in their share. When one person is finished speaking, the listener, the person who is listening to them actively, gets to choose a listener for themselves, and they get to share at that point, speak at that point. So I'll try and guide so that when somebody is finished speaking, I'll say to the listener, okay, you get to share now, and you get to pick somebody. If people get confused, because that is the transition moment is often sometimes where people are a little bit lost. So does that answer your question? Okay, great. All right. Does anybody feel like they'd like to share either on the topic, which is the facilitator training, or anything that is alive in your mind or bubbling up in your heart?
I'll start. Can I
Okay,
speak
and
to you?
would you like to pick a listener?
I'll speak to you.
Okay, well, let me bear with me just 1 second. I've got a clock to set here. Whoop. Stop binging me. Okay, focus mode. Still binging. Okay, sorry about that, Edwin.
Sure, no problem.
Off we go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you chose the topic of the facilitation, because I actually wanted that to be the general topic for everyone, but all the facilitators want to do it their own way. So I thought it'd be a good way to sort of harvest what everybody's experience is, and kind of ideas for next steps. So I thought it'd be a good way to sort of integrate what we've been doing.
Okay. I heard you say that you were hoping that everyone would use the topic that the other facilitators might suggest it in their groups, so that we could get feedback and data for next steps, and that you're glad that I chose the topic.
Yeah, and it was also, I would have liked all the sessions recorded so we could go back and sort of harvest all of that. And I'm kind of looking for testimonials too, like what's everybody's experience been? So I like to record those and post them out on the internet for sort of like when people hear what other people's reactions are. So right. That's kind of my motivation for having set that suggested that.
Okay, and that you are hoping to mine some of the recorded sessions for ideas, for testimonials, for whatever is good that you can mine from them. And I can just interject. I'll be happy to do a testimonial anytime, even though that is not something that I heard from you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, glad to hear that. So that was, so I feel fully heard. That's
okay. Well, excellent. That means that we transition to me, the listener, getting to be the speaker, and I pick somebody to listen to me. And Edwin used much less of his time than he was entitled to, so we're doing well. How about Olivia? Will you hear me?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, great. I'm not sure really what to share about. My initial feeling is sort of sad that the training is drawing to a close. I feel that it went very quickly. I somehow wish that I could have spread it out a little bit, because I feel like it happened, a lot happened very quickly, and I don't know that I've digested everything. But mainly I'm just feeling slightly sad that we're not going to keep doing this. So hopefully at some point I'll be able to sign up again for more training, a redo, because I feel like I'm not quite cooked yet.
Well, I can certainly hear that you're sad about this coming to a close, and that it's gone by very quickly for you in this process, and that you're also willing and very interested in coming back and doing it again.
Yeah.
Giving it another go.
Thank you. What else? Not on the subject of the empathy training. I sort of feel like the same is happening in life in general these days for me, which is I'm feeling very busy and sort of a bit late and short, you know, not quite feeling like I don't know, the days seem to be passing way too quickly. Maybe that's just the oncoming fall. I don't know what it is, but you know, there aren't enough hours in a day, and I don't know. I think maybe the answer is more self-care. Who knows? But I just historically hate the time change, and I'm very conscious that it's looming. So that's that.
It sounds like you're making a parallel to the course and the quick pace of the course coming to a close, that's also, you're feeling a little bit of that mirrors life and the pace that you're running at right now. That's with that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess there's no going backwards. You can't stop and say, I'd like summer to just keep going. But really, that's what I'd like. I find transitions hard, and, you know, but onward into the future. So all in all, it has been a great time. I would highly recommend it to so many people that probably aren't interested but need it. It's been really good. That's all I got.
Well, going back to your first, your last comment about the time change, and that change is difficult because it also sounds like summer comes to an end, and it does, I guess. And so that change in general is not that easy.
No.
But it's good. It sounds like it's still good for you, though.
Yeah, it's better than the alternative.
Better than the alternative, exactly.
Thank you, Olivia. I feel heard.
Thank you.
You get to choose a listener.
Gwen, would you like to listen to me?
Gladly.
Well, I'll just pick up on the comments around the facilitator training and what that looked like and felt like. I would have to agree with Alexandra about the quickness and the pace. There's a part of me that would rather it be stretched out, so it were over 4 weeks, and that really gave a chance. It was very difficult from a Monday to a Wednesday to find time to meet up with the buddy, and also to just, there's so much reflection. I leave the class and there's so much reflection.
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is just coming back to some of the comments that Alexandra made about wishing that the training was a bit stretched out in time. And you see several benefits to that. For example, that it's easier to schedule the buddy empathy calls in between trainings and that you have more time for reflection after a session.
Exactly, because I do think part of this, I'm realizing in the last, especially this week, because I'm less anxious about, oh, how am I going to perform doing this? I'm less anxious about that. And now I'm more reflective around, well, that was a really interesting topic that we talked about. And you can't just, even though it's facilitator training, those are still real things for people and real thoughts. And they're in the back of my head, but I haven't had time to deal with those or journal them. And I think journaling would be a very important part of this if it were stretched out over a week, and then we had time to come back and then maybe go one-on-one with each other and have time to actually talk about what came up for us during that time once we're in the session.
Yeah, right. So you're really diving into that reflection and talking about how having more times in between sessions can really give a lot of space to sort of process all the things that you've heard in training, because even though it's a training, you're still hearing real thoughts and feelings that people are expressing. And you think that journaling could be a great thing to help with our learning here. And giving more time between sessions would really give people time to journal and discuss thoughts that have come up during sessions on these one-on-one empathy buddy calls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking actually this morning that old saying of physician heal thyself. And anytime that you become a facilitator of anything, whether that's a course you're teaching or whether it's facilitating dialogue or conversation, you have to have your own journey in that. And for me, it's a part of the training and development to do that for myself. So I can grow, and if I can grow, then I can bring more to the table as a facilitator. And for me, that piece has been missing a bit more because it's a question of reflection takes time, and yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what I heard is, sorry, you were talking about, is it time? I'll just reflect. Yeah, you were talking about how becoming a facilitator of any kind, doing any kind of training, comes with a personal journey. And for you, this reflective aspect is really important, and you cannot rush that. You need time to get that reflective part of the training, and that will really help you grow and bring more to the table as a facilitator.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I feel heard.
You're welcome. I'll speak to you, Alexandra, if you will listen. Whew. All right. So I guess I wanted to start off by saying that I think it is a really great idea to have topics about facilitation and the different, like the empathy circle structure, et cetera, used in these facilitator trainings. On the one hand, because a lot of really interesting conversations were interrupted by the fact that we were doing this training and we were switching facilitators and we didn't really get into depth. So it was almost a little bit frustrating to pick a topic that's sort of more complex and deeper and you really want to get into. And I agree with Edwin that I think it can sort of bring the facilitator training to the next level to hear about each other's experiences at sort of more a meta level. Sorry, yes, I'll pause. And then
I heard you say that it was good to talk about the facilitator training in these circles and the training the circle structure, and that sometimes it was a little frustrating when topics came up that are complex and it's pretty short. The circles are pretty short and switch often, so you can't get as deep, but you get triggered into being interested in going into a topic. And and it goes by the wayside. And also that it is a neat way to get feedback and information to sort of redigest into the training process.
I had that exact same thought, you know, so that if you just keep, you know.
Edwin, if you can wait just a minute, it'll be your turn to share, and then you can join in and share that thought with us.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We'll go back to Gwen because it's her moment at the moment.
Yeah, so I also want to just echo that I think spreading it out over 4 weeks can be very beneficial. I understand that it's from an organizational perspective, maybe more difficult because I think they've been, you guys have been doing a couple of weeks of recruitment and 2 weeks of sessions. And I don't know, that structure would have to be broken, but I do think it would have a lot of benefits, which have already been mentioned essentially.
I hear that you're saying that it might be nice to go over 4 weeks and for all of the reasons that we talked about, but that it could be difficult organizationally.
It's just a different structure, so you'd have to make sure that it's not too complicated or effortful on the trainer's side as well, I guess. Then lastly, like this is a topic and I can go kind of both ways, but recording everything in a training session where some people might already feel put on the spot and maybe anxious, I think it can either make people not want to join, or if they do join, challenge themselves less or participate less because they don't want to look back at the recording and see themselves sort of mess up. I personally, yes.
I heard you say that you're not sure about recording everything because in a training session, because some people might be loath to do it if they know that everything's being recorded, just having to look back.
Thank you. So hard.
Thanks, Gwen. Edwin, would you like to share?
Mean for me to talk now?
Yep. You want to pick a listener?
Oh, you don't want to talk?
Well, I got a chance already, and I figured we would, instead of me being the listener, I would just go back to you since you started.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a good time to end and for the 20, and then just do a debrief on how everything was. So we could maybe just shift
to forward. If anybody has some feedback for me, I would love it.
Yeah, how was the experience? Maybe you could get.
I feel a little bit sort of timid still, and but much better than at the beginning where I was just, you know, deer in headlights. So, you know, I've managed to, I'm not actually like stammering and you know, I'm not, imminent heart attack is not happening. So I feel much better. I still feel a little bit awkward, but I think it sort of, I don't know if this makes sense, but I feel like in a real circle, I might feel a little less awkward because there's something about the play aspect, the sort of, okay, because it's sort of real and it's sort of performed at the same time, which is odd. But I mean, thank goodness, or, you know, I would never have been able to get off the dime if we didn't have the sort of role-playing feature of it. But I feel better, still a little bit nervous, but much better.
Okay, well, I could add a few comments then. One thing was with the, like you just passed it on to me. A way to pass it on is you could have said, oh, Edwin, I really heard you really wanted to speak. So I'm
That's
really
what I was
wanting,
thinking. It didn't come
yeah.
out of my mouth.
And then I would reflect back. I'd say, oh, I really hear you. You're saying you really want me to speak. And then you would say, I feel fully heard. And then see, it would be passing on the turn without kind of having the power of
I see.
that
That
power,
is
like you can now
very
speak. I am deciding who gets to
smart.
speak, and you break the. So that's just a little tip, you know, that
That is a very
it keeps
smart.
within the structure,
Right.
within the rules of the structure. You know, most people don't care, but there's people who are really into the rules.
Right, and they might
things-
feel very gypped if somehow you broke the structure.
Right.
Or,
Exactly.
that's very, very smart.
And you handled, you know, my sort of speaking, I thought pretty well, you know, just, you know, and I hope that even though it's role play and acting, it's just knowing that you've done it, I hope is, you know, helps, you know. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, because you know it's going to happen in real life.
Yeah, so that's my report.
I'll add to that. It was so interesting. You started off saying that you didn't feel comfortable to do the beginning part of that. And yet I thought it was beautifully handled. It felt so natural. You hit every piece that there was. It was, I felt really that I was just completely comfortable in your presence.
Excellent.
And there wasn't anything that, as the person who would have been sitting around a table, I felt like I would have got all the pieces that I needed with that. I thought it was very, very well done. And you seemed extremely confident to do that.
I'm just winging it. I mean, believe me, whatever you may, inside there's a whole bunch of ducks swimming furiously.
I get that. Yeah.
Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah, if I could add to that as well, I agree that you seemed sort of cool with doing the introduction. I think it was great. I really appreciated you taking your time and not rushing it. So I think that was great. And yeah, as Edwin said, you dealt with these little inconsistencies and troubles really well. Like the one thought that came up, and this is not a big deal, but in your first turn as a listener, you actually added a little bit of your own thoughts, and maybe just for modeling purposes, that's not a great thing to do right at the start, just because that's very difficult for everybody.
Yeah.
If you break it as facilitator, it might be easier for other people.
Absolutely.
To go down that road. But yeah, that's all I had to add to this. So great job.
I think that's valid. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, everyone. So the next person, you got 25 minutes.
I'm happy to give it a whirl.
Okay.
So welcome everyone to our Empathy Circle this afternoon. And I just wanted to, as we get going, I just want to give you a few guidelines to follow and to think on. And there are not a lot of guidelines, which is really nice. So it allows you just to kind of be comfortable in the process. So you don't even have to take notes as to what comes next. So what with the circle, we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to feel valued, respected, and heard. And a way that we do that is by having three main roles. One will be the listener, one will be the silent listener, and one will be the speaker. And when it's your turn to be the speaker, you can put a topic that may be bubbling up for you on the table for us to talk about. Also, I've got a couple of ideas as well that I could put out there as a starting point. If you're a listener, then the best thing that you can do is to really be present and focused on the speaker and really hearing what they have to say, because one of the roles that you will have is to be able to mirror back or paraphrase back some of the key phrases that you're hearing from them. And if it's important for the speaker that they, pause about every minute and a half so that it allows the listener to be able to remember all of the thoughts that you have. And then as the silent listener, it's really just holding the space and really being present with everybody who's there, which means no, looking at technology or slouching in your seat or looking at the birds out the window. And I'll take the role as facilitator, and I'll hold the space as we move along, and I'll also time us for about 4 minutes each as we go along as well. And when it's getting closer to that last little bit of conversation, I'll just hold my hand up, and that really means we've got 1 minute left, just as a reminder for you. So are there any questions at all from anyone? Okay, so I'll put a topic on the table, and you're welcome to use that topic, or you can change it. It's up to you. And then whoever feels comfortable to start just speaking up, then I'll leave it up to you to do that. So the topic I'd like to put on the table is and it goes back to what we've been talking a little bit about, and that is as a facilitator of empathy circles, what would be the main objective, or how would you use the empathy circles in the world that you're in right now? Gwen.
Go first. Yeah, so how did I think about? Let the facilitator handle this. Sorry. All right, since you ruined my plan, Olivia, I'll speak to you if you want, if you will listen.
I will.
Thank you.
Shame.
Being a facilitator, even when you're not it. All right, so get to the topic. I think this is an interesting one. I originally got interested in doing these empathy circles to talk about societal issues that people are really divided on. I got into this crowd essentially through Extinction Rebellion, which is a climate activist group, and there was a lot of talk within the group to sort of deal with some of the polarization around this topic and get people talking again to each other. So that's sort of one area that I could think of.
So I'm hearing you say that it's Extinction
Rebellion.
Extinction Rebellion. Okay. So that's one of the reasons that you got involved in this, so that you could deepen the dialogue on that particular topic with others.
Yeah, definitely, and deal with some of that polarization that you can see around so many topics in the world. Yeah, and the interesting thing is, the deeper I get into this, the more I see like, oh, I want to use it here and there as well. So one thing I really want to do is use it with my family. As I said, with my mom, we've had good conversations, but with some frustrations about understanding each other and really listening. So I think I would really want to talk to her in this format. And then the third kind of region is sort of mediation and conflict resolution in a student group that I'm a part of. I think it could be very powerful there as well if people are open to using it.
So I'm hearing you say that there's actually 3 areas that you could use it in. One would be dealing with polarization of individuals on topics. The second one would be family issues, specifically to mom. And then the third would be with as a student as well.
Yeah, so I've been working on initiating a student group, which is one of the reasons that I'm a little tired and distracted today. But I really want to try and work on some systemic issues that are sort of present throughout our society. And I'm just starting to prepare for those kinds of issues coming up in that group, and thinking already about solutions for how to deal with complaints and conflict there. And I think empathy circles might be one of the ways that we can try and tackle some of those issues there.
So you can see the empathy circles value in being able to deal with some of these deeper rooted systemic issues with that particular group specifically.
Yeah, well, just because that's what I'm a part of right now, I think it would apply broader, but that's where I'm involved at the moment. So that's where I see it as a potential thing. Yeah.
So you're starting where you're at.
Yes, I really think that's the only thing you can do. If you look at all the problems in the world, it's just too much. So yeah, starting where you're at is a good start, and then you can see where you can build from there, I'd say.
All right, so starting where you're at and building from there.
Thank you, I feel heard.
Okay, so Edwin, will you listen to me?
Listening.
I guess if I think about why I came to this in the first place, I've been kind of following, I've been lurking on empathy circles for a couple of years after seeing you for the first time. This whole concept came forward at a conference that we both happened to be at. And I remember sitting in the circle, and it's always just sat in the back of my mind since then, of what next with empathy circles, and how does that fit in to the Charter for Compassion?
So you've been aware of empathy circles and just kind of following it, lurking, is I think you were saying, and you're just wondering how you could incorporate it with, with the Charter for Compassion, and just been kind of watching it, and that sounds like one of the reasons you kind of took part now.
Because I'm the director of the Charter Education Institute, I see that this could be a topic that, if brought out to an audience that we have we deal with compassionate cities, is this a tool that could be used with compassionate cities? And if we could, how could we bring it onto the education platform that we have, which it would be a really interesting tool to be able to get out as to put in our toolbox for folks.
Yeah, I mean, I have thousands of ideas about that, so I'd really love to talk to you about all those ideas. So I hope we can chat more about that at some point.
We absolutely can. We absolutely can. The other part I have is I'd like to be able to see how this incorporates into the business work that I do. I do work with kindness in business, and this to me seems like the perfect kindness model that you can take into a group of leaders to be able to give them a skill set that they could learn how to do empathy circles within their own teams. I think it would have to be adapted for that a little bit with the more guidelines, but I'd love to be able to see how can I bring that into actually experiential way of teaching it in organizations.
So you're seeing in other places within the organizational work that you do with kindness groups, or on the topic of kindness, and just kind of brainstorm thinking about how to implement it there. And I heard before you were also talking about how to bring it into the charter with different chapter groups there.
The Charter for Compassion has a lot of reach. We have about 400 compassionate cities who are always looking for things to be able to use it with. And I could see the application of training facilitators like you've done here, and then taking that into broadening that out for a group of people who specifically are very passionate about compassion and empathy and compassion. I mean, they're interchangeable. From my perspective.
So you really see how in all these chapters, and there's thousands of these, I can't remember the exact number you're talking about saying, but that you just see that the people in those chapters are looking for new ideas and practices, and they might be interested in this.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm really excited about all the things that I've been hearing that everyone's been talking about, because I have a lot of ideas about this as well. I think I'm thinking of maybe just going down the list of those ideas. And I'm going to do a timeout now just to say this, Olivia, this would have been a good time to say, Edwin, who are you speaking to? So I didn't choose anybody to speak to. I was just speaking, and people will do that. And so this is a time, it's just a time I say, oh, Edwin, who are you speaking to? Just to.
And then it's Edwin's job to go find a name.
Yeah, it would be me, the speaker. I have to select someone. So I didn't select anyone, and you just start going. That's sort of breaking the structure. So you can, if you just said, Edwin, oh, who are you speaking to, or just.
Okay, then Edwin, who are you speaking to?
Oh, yeah, right. I'll speak to Alexandra.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, I'm excited to hear. This was a great topic because it's like I'm looking at how to, each of these topics, areas, it's almost like it could be a training of its own, is how do we apply this in different contexts? So this whole topic that Olivia brought up could be a whole, 4-session module, I think.
I hear you say you're excited about this topic because it could be a whole training module on its own, but you're getting a lot of ideas from it.
Yeah, and especially the one like with families. I've been thinking of having a weekly one for families. The topic would be, how do we bring this into our families? Because you need a lot of support with families, because there's, the relationships are very fixed in families, and it's hard to bring a new sort of a relational process in, and it helps to have a lot of support. So I think this is, and developing tools and practices and ideas for how do we implement it in families could be, now especially with COVID, could be really powerful.
I think you said that you're thinking of having a weekly circle on the topic of how to bring empathy practice into families, because in that environment, one might need an extra amount of support, and that particularly in the time of COVID, it could be very useful.
Yeah. And I know, like, one participant, Dean, who comes out of the XR group, he's just fallen in love with empathy circles, and he's from the UK, and he started doing it with his family, and it was his daughter just loves it because, like in families, there's this dynamic, and a lot of times family members there's a power structure, the kids don't get hurt, really. Mm. And so now his daughter finally gets the parents listening to her. And he just says, this has just changed her. Like finally the parents are listening. They don't even realize that they're not listening. So, yeah.
Lovely. I heard you say that Dean, one of the participants that you know from the UK, has started using it in his family, and his daughter is thrilled because she feels that the usual power structure of the parent getting to have their say and not really hearing the kids has changed, and she's getting really heard for the first time, and
yeah,
pretty neat.
So yeah, so I really love this topic. Yeah, and I feel fully heard with that.
Thanks, Edwin. Okay, well, I guess I will go right back. Edwin, will you listen to me?
Yep, listening.
And, how to use it in my current life. It's very, that's not as easy a question as, I mean, I joined up thinking about using it in sort of the world at large and the sort of political climate being what it is and blah, blah, blah. I have friends and acquaintances from all walks of life, corners of the world. And I was thinking in a sort of more general sense of, just learning and spreading. And of course, bringing it into my family is another area. I'm fairly, in real life, I'm fairly isolated these days. And I think that if I were to bring it to my family, I should probably get another facilitator, because I think as a member of the family, I might be delusional if I think that I can be the facilitator in my own family.
Yeah, so you're thinking about how you could implement an empathy circle, and initially it's not, you were saying it was like within the political realm, you're thinking of that. Then it was, you're thinking maybe with friends, you know, but you are isolated where you're at. And then you were thinking about family, and you thought maybe it'd be difficult to facilitate in a family because, you know, you got a lot, the whole dynamic. So maybe you could get some support there from someone else to co-facilitate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Several members of my family, I think, have a little bit of a clue about it, but of course, those are not the ones that I'm having the most difficulty with. So I might even be able to, I mean, I might be lucky enough that I could kind of bring some of my more empathetic family members around and then kind of co-facilitate, you know, bringing some of the more recalcitrant members into the circle.
Right.
So let's see how that goes. I don't know.
Yeah, so one strategy I'm hearing is you can start with the people who are better listeners, maybe start with them, bring them into the process, and then move towards the ones that are more challenging family members.
I think that might work, because a couple of my, thank you. Oh, are you saying time? A couple of my sisters have, you know, gotten their toes wet with the whole compassionate communication concept. So that might actually work also, to kind of work up to the more Olympic members.
Oh yeah. So you've had some family members who have dealt with compassionate listening, and you can maybe connect with them, sort of team up and move toward the more recalcitrant, or what do you call it, the challenging family members.
Yes, the stubborn ones.
Work towards the stubborn ones with some support from.
Absolutely, I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. Speak to Gwen. Yeah, it was interesting you were talking about XR. Just last week, I did an empathy circle with some people from XR America and US, you know, because there's this big conflict. And I had kind of worked with them, you know, with trying to mediate there before, and it's a lot of work to bring the sides together. And then some XR Silicon Valley initiated their own you know, initiative to do this, and you know, I came and we did a circle. So yeah, it just, since you mentioned XR, I just wanted to mention that one, and there's a recording of it too.
Right. Yeah, so I'm hearing you sort of recall that you recently did a mediation focused empathy circle with different XR groups. There's a lot of conflict between XR America and XR US. And it was their initiative, but you were very glad to jump on and work on that. And you wanted to mention that because I brought up Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah. And so, yeah, for me, it's like, I just want to, you know, talking about where to hold empathy circles. It's like, I want to hold them everywhere. My goal is, if everyone in the world just learns how to do an empathy circle, is this first easy step. I mean, it's very accessible. And you get, from my sense, is you get the most sort of benefit with the least amount of work. You know, it's sort of that 20, you get 80% of the benefit from 20% of the work. And I'm kind of a lazy person like that. So it's like, you know, you get a lot of benefits. And if we can get the whole world just using this, you know, then there's a lot of other, you know, great practices on top of it. But this is just a really good, easy starting point.
Right, yeah, so you're kind of reflecting on the original question of where to implement empathy circles, and your response would be everywhere, because you think it could improve the situation in a lot of cases, and it's really this very easy, low effort practice that can reap a lot of benefits. So you see it as a really applicable first step in a lot of situations. And if the whole world could just do empathy circles, we would already be one step closer.
Yeah, exactly. And so where is the area that it could get the most traction? That's what I keep struggling with. I tried mediation, trying family, trying this, trying XR group. So it's like, where can we, so I don't really know what the answer is. So I keep kind of looking and trying, to find where can we get it to get the most traction to grow the most rapid. So it's still a challenge to find where that is. I think families has a real potential.
Right, so you're kind of looking for the different places where doing empathy circles can really take hold and expand. And you've tried in different places like mediation, and now you're thinking maybe family could be a really great place to continue this practice.
And before COVID, I was very into doing it on the streets and at political rallies, and wanting to take it to the Capitol. If we can get it like XR, do nonviolent direct empathic action to get politicians to do it, because we can get media attention there, which would help kind of broadcast it. So that's another strategy.
Right, so this was sort of a pre-COVID idea, but originally we were also focused on doing this in combination with maybe XR or other groups doing direct action on the streets around political issues, maybe even get politicians in and really get that media attention to spread the use of empathy circles.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. So probably a good time to pause and just get feedback for Olivia. How was that for you, Olivia? And we can guide us in getting feedback.
Well, I felt more relaxed every time I do it. I get a little bit more in the groove of it and out of my own way for the most part. And so I think I definitely needed to expand a little bit more specifically around that beginning piece with some details. I was just kind of going off the top of my head on that, and I could see that I missed a couple of little spots, and then also not catching that piece with you. I thought we just moved into a conversation. I forgot I was actually in facilitator mode. So that part, but I definitely could feel my confidence level is starting to rise a little bit more each time I do that. So thank you for everyone participating in that with me.
So I've got a feedback so there was actually 2 times where I kind of put a challenge in, and there was one you spoke to me and I just started talking about my own experience. And I don't know if you kind of said, oh yeah, but I was just kind of I wasn't really reflecting you. I was actually just talking about my own experience. I don't know if you caught that.
I caught that, but I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do with it because you were, I was the listener, so I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do with it.
And you're the facilitator too. So
yes.
So in that sense, it's like you need to kind of, you can kind of get a sense of how much to interject, but you can say, oh, all you do is just reflect back what it is that you're hearing me say. You don't want to add anything of your own. Because what can happen is if people start interjecting, then other people say, oh, I can interject too. And the whole thing falls apart. So it's really, you got to keep people sort of on track to just reflect back, or you can say something like, as a listener, like, I didn't really feel heard there. I felt, or you can even say, I didn't feel heard there. I felt like you were adding stuff. Could you reflect that?
Okay.
That's
Thank
another
you.
kind of a trick. It's like,
because I remember kind of going, like I was a little thrown off and I didn't.
Exactly.
I could feel it. Then it's like I had to regroup myself. That's a great piece of advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I had break in again with the other where I just, just so there were 2 little challenges you had there. So
I meant to say I don't want any challenges.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
No, I forgot to tell you, but I was like, oh, right, 0 challenges.
You'll
Thank
feel,
you.
yeah, now that you've met them, you kind of learned by that. So
I did. You're
yeah,
right.
okay.
Anyone else? I'd love to hear from you.
I
Yeah.
think, I'm sorry, Gwen. Basically, Edwin covered everything that I was thinking of, so I don't really have much to add. I mean, it was comfortable, and you know, you seemed comfortable, and it progressed apace, so I don't really have much to add.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say you were really calm and clear. So I think that was a great way to set it up. Yeah, as a facilitator, you could have been more present sometimes when things went wrong, but I guess that's just a learning process. So I think for the most part, you did great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the intro was very clear. I thought it's like very grounded. So all your experience in the field, I think, shows through. Okay, so next, who was last? When?
Me, I'm sorry. I have a sign with time and I put it somewhere. Okay, I have it.
Oh, I will add that it was actually a sign is good, because sometimes you like Olivia held up a finger. I wasn't sure if it was just something, or if there is a sign or something that really makes it clear that the time is up. So yeah, just a note.
I know you've got these great signs, Edwin. I wonder if those would be something you would just put a PDF up and then people could download them, because you've got like everything covered in those signs. Yeah. He's like master sign guy.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Ben.
great way. All right, I was originally going to go with a high challenge level of 4. I am a little bit more tired than I was hoping to be. So if halfway through I'm really not handling it well, I might tell you guys to tone it down a little bit. But yeah, I would like to take this last opportunity to be challenged. I'm not going to say I'm going to get through it well, but that's the point, I guess, to learn. I would also like to skip the intro, if that's okay. And but I will say that we will be taking turns of 3 minutes. I will use the timer on my stopwatch, and you will hear a sound when it finishes. So I'll play it for you now so you know what to listen for. Oh, there you go. Maybe that's one too often. I'll put it down to maybe 3. Anyways, I can understand that sometimes you're so into what you're saying that you don't actually hear the sound. So in that case, I will also put up this little sign to indicate that your time is up. And in that case, just finish your thoughts. You don't have to stop right away, but try to finish up as soon as you're able. And then as the topic, I was going to stick with sort of what we're talking about, but maybe doing a sort of pre-debrief. So sharing about your experiences in this training, and that can nicely lead into anything you think could be improved as well. So that's sort of the topic I had in mind. Who would like to start speaking?
I'm happy to go. Could you repeat the question again, Gwen?
Yes, so if I phrase it as a question, I'd say, how was your experience in this facilitator training, and how would you improve it? How could it be improved?
Okay.
Do you want to select a listener? Sorry.
Yes, Alexandra.
Great.
Yes.
Well, how would I guess I'm thinking about how would I improve the training, and then what has been my experience. I guess both of those I'm going to put together. My experience has been a I would say, a pretty high learning curve in some aspects, because I had to unlearn my old methodology around listening skills and doing them a little bit differently than what I'm trained to do. And I had only ever been to one circle, so I'm like a real babe in this, and that was a couple of years ago. So yeah, so it's been a pretty steep climb up to the top of the mountain at this point.
I heard you say that you've had a steep learning curve because you had to unlearn your old way of listening that you'd been trained in and learn this new way, and that you had only been to one empathy circle prior. So you felt like you were pretty new at it. So it was a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm. I'm a wannabe. And so, yeah, so noting that, that I'm a pretty entry level, I guess would be the term I would use. And I know very specifically that the criteria was that you had to have been involved in a number of these ahead of time. And somehow I was lucky enough to skip the queue and got accepted, which I really appreciated. And so I guess I'm thinking as far as what would have been helpful if I were to take this into organizations. Everybody is going to be entry level in their own way, because they'll have great skills, but they have to unlearn some of those skills first. So it's almost like you have to unpack what your old methodology is. And I think that is important conversation for facilitators to do, is what do you need to let go of? What skills do you have that you can let go of? And so you make room for the new stuff.
That's I heard you say it might be helpful for facilitators if they're dealing with folks who are new, and you think if you were bringing it into corporations that a lot of people would be new with it, but to maybe address and unpack what people's prior skills and methodologies were at the beginning of the training.
Mm-hmm.
If I heard you correctly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel heard.
Thanks, Olivia. Well, I guess Gwen, will you listen? And
yes, gladly.
On the same topic, I also am fairly new to this specific methodology, and had to unlearn or sort of was dealing with two learning tracks at the same time, of learning this and unlearning that. And in my old way of doing things, one was encouraged to say what needs and feelings one heard the person say, which is a completely different way than just simple mirroring. And also the intermittent reflection, rather than letting somebody go through the whole Megillah and then reflecting at the end. So those are two huge changes for me.
Right, if I can reflect that back.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, so what I've heard you say is sort of resonating, that you resonated with what Olivia was saying about having to unlearn specific stuff while you're also learning this practice that we're learning here today. And that the two major things that you really had to unlearn was, for one, reflecting feelings and underlying needs that you were perceiving from the person, which you're not really supposed to do in empathy circles. And then the other is to reflect intermittently instead of at the end of somebody, and let them just go through the whole thing first.
Absolutely, exactly. And it's an odd it's an odd thing, but definitely I think it might have been helpful for me to get a chance to say that earlier on so that people could kind of know my, I won't say bad habits, but sort of know what my temptation was, and realize maybe that's why I was forgetting to pause or whatever. I don't know whether that's good or bad. I guess there's probably pros and cons to both. But I've enjoyed this immensely, and I'm terribly glad that I got into the training, and really we'll be looking for places where I can bring it in real life, in my personal life, but hope to continue doing it online. And the online buddy stuff is just great. It wasn't happening prior to COVID as much, and so it's really been a boon for me.
Right. Yeah. So what I heard you say is that one of the things, and that first of all, you really enjoyed the whole process. One of the things I think you said you liked was being able to share sort of some of the habits you have and that you think interfere with your participation in the empathy circle. And that it's really great to have these empathy buddy calls as well and really connect with people. I feel like I've missed some stuff.
That's okay. It was pretty good. When I was, did you just remember?
I remember something that you are looking now for opportunities to bring this into your own personal life as well.
When I was pre-COVID, when I was doing empathy learning and sharing and stuff, it was in person, and there are not a lot of people in my area, and so I was traveling a lot, and it was getting very expensive, and it was actually kind of adding some stress to my life, which is not exactly what you want it to be doing. So this has kind of been a way to get back in, and it has been painless in terms of any of that stuff, so I'm grateful.
Right. So I guess that little bit that I missed was you expressing gratefulness for it being online, because before COVID, you noticed that you were traveling a lot to do some of this empathy work, and that's really counterproductive because it's supposed to give you energy and help you and not drain you. And so this has been actually really nice for you in a way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's one of the few, benefits from so much stuff going online, and so I've been grateful for that. And that's it. I feel very complete there.
Great, thank you for sharing. All right, my turn. Edwin, will you listen to me?
Listening.
All right. Yes, my experience with this training. I've also really enjoyed it. I think learning through doing is great. And I really, I'd been watching the videos online, and there I saw there were like different, I think in the start you still did different sessions on the speaker, the listener, etc. specifically. And I was sort of positively surprised by the fact that we're just doing a lot of facilitation during this training instead of having little presentations and discussions on the different roles.
So you really appreciate learning by doing, and you'd seen like a previous training where it was a bit more presentations, and so it was different from what we're doing now.
Yeah, and I think that that was a really positive surprise for me, essentially. Yeah, this is a little bit random, but I thought of it when we were in the main session, and then again when the conversation started here, and then I forgot to say it in my turn. But one sort of little improvement I could think of to help facilitate the empathy buddy calls was to ask people how they can be best reached or how they would prefer to be contacted. I think email is not optimal for everybody. I think somebody in the main session mentioned, oh, WhatsApp was really easy for us. And if you give people names like their buddies with the preferred mode of contact. Maybe that would be easier for people to connect that way.
Okay, so the first part that you repeated was that you were pleasantly surprised that it was more experiential, less presentation. And the other was something you were thinking about is doing the empathy buddy calls. People like to use different ways to connect, WhatsApp, maybe the phone, different ways. If there's more of these resources to help people connect, maybe that would be helpful for people to connect easier. Kind of make life a little easier.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do think the empathy buddy calls can be very valuable. I feel like there wasn't always a lot of time to really debrief or really get into how you felt about the training, how you felt about that session, what stuff came up. So I think that can be a really great thing to do in the empathy buddy calls, where two people really have a lot of space for each other, which is hard to give when you're in a session with like 16 people.
Yes, I'm hearing some real appreciation for the empathy buddy call, where you really have more space to really go in deeper, where you don't have in these larger groups. So maybe really appreciating that empathy buddy time.
Yeah, I feel heard. Thank you.
I speak to Olivia.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little torn. I just had a desire to really be disruptive. I'm realizing I've been giving Gwen any disruption here. She asked for a 3, and 3 is pretty intense. So yeah, I was just kind of feeling just that came up. So
Yeah, I hear you saying that you're feeling a little torn right now because you wanted to disrupt Gwen and meet her goal of 3 disruptions.
yeah,
Can be
it's
a
not
little...
3 disruption, it's the level, it's 3
Oh,
intensity
level 3.
level. It's like level 3 is like it should be total mayhem here. It's like 3 is getting pretty much up there, you know. Yeah.
So you missed the opportunity to be disruptive.
Yeah, I was feeling remiss.
With Gwen.
Yeah, and I did have a sort of a question about, you know, you're saying you had to unlearn. I understood Alexandra's unlearning because Alexandra was talking about unlearning NVC, feelings and needs. And yeah, I'll pause there. I'm not sure. Looks like you might be frozen. So I think we might have lost you.
Oh, that's very unfortunate. I'll see if she can still see the chat here. And I'll pause your time. Oh,
yeah, she'll have to drop back in.
All right. Are you okay if I reflect in the meantime?
Sure, great.
Cool. Yeah, so what I was hearing you express was sort of wondering about what Olivia meant by unlearning, because Alexandra was more specific about having to unlearn NVC. And I guess you were going to ask Olivia about what she meant by having to unlearn.
Yeah, and I would say about the NVC, you're totally, for reflection, reflecting somebody's feeling, naming the feeling, even doing a feelings guess or a needs guess is totally fine here. So in fact, that kind of deepens the whole experience. It's just, this is sort of geared for everyone. So we don't really talk about the feelings and needs to begin with, but I really see that as a sort of a next step to go deeper in the reflection. So it's worth a try if, you know, yeah.
Right, so I'm hearing you clarify towards Alexandra as well that MVC, like the guessing of needs and feelings is allowed within the empathy circle. It's just not brought up because it is a more difficult thing and you really want to keep it accessible for everybody.
Yeah, I think this is sort of more of a starting point, you know, just reflecting, and we say it's reflecting your understanding of what the person has said, and you can do it with, you know, summary, you know, you can do a parroting if you want. You can try whatever is comfortable to you, or just in your own words. And if your own words is, oh, it sounds like I'm hearing you're feeling anxious or you're feeling excited. If you can put names to those feelings, that can definitely, you know, if it can land, and even if it doesn't land with NVC, you're still giving a jumping off point. So it's definitely, you know, yeah, okay.
Right. Yeah. So you're going a little bit deeper into it and just sort of explaining that the empathy circle and the reflecting we do here is a starting point. But what you're supposed to be reflecting is your understanding of what the other is saying. And that can definitely include when you feel like you're getting sort of a need or a feeling from what the other person is saying. That can be part of your reflection in an empathy circle for sure.
Yeah, the thing is I find people from NVC.
Sorry, Edwin, your
Okay.
time is up. Yes,
Okay.
you'll get a turn to speak
Alrighty.
soon. Whew, all right, Alexandra, will you listen to me? All right, so I'm just gonna say that I don't really have a lot to say. I jumped in here to listen instead of Olivia, so I'd like you to reflect that, and then I'll give you my turn.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. You said I jumped in here to listen instead of Olivia, and then I didn't hear what you said after that.
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. So I don't really have a lot to say. And since I took over this listening turn, I would like to pass on my speaking turn.
I'm hearing you say that you don't have a lot to say and you would like to pass on your speaking turn.
Yes, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay, great. All right.
So
then,
we may want to do a debrief here. We've got not quite enough time for a full.
Works for me.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, how was that, Gwen?
Yeah, it was fine. Like for the first 10 minutes, I was just watching you and waiting for the disruptions that didn't come. I was like, oh, he's scrolling through the challenges right now. So I wasn't paying a lot of attention to what was being said at the start. But yeah, no, I think it went all right. Obviously, I didn't have a lot that I needed to deal with. No worries, Olivia. Sorry you had issues.
It just completely shut off.
Zoom?
It just everybody froze twice. And it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah,
it was actually an experience to deal with technical issues, which you don't really get. So
good.
I totally had it planned.
Thank you. This is very kind of you to my part.
You wanted a challenge, you got one. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Were you opening it up, or did you have more?
Nope. Happy to hear feedback.
Yeah, I could really feel that you were wanting a challenge. I was about to really give you one, and then my partner came up and it kind of distracted me. And I was going to do the challenge I had in mind was, okay, I'm getting tired of this. Let's not do this anymore. You know, it's like, you know, let's just talk normal. I don't want to talk with this reflective stuff anymore. So because that's kind of a difficult one, like, you know, so I don't know, what would you have done in that case?
Yeah, so I guess I would have re-explained the purpose. Like we're here, we're using this format to make sure that everybody has time to speak and be heard. And this only works if we all agree to the process, essentially. Everybody else here really wants to do it this way. Yeah, I'm actually not sure if offering somebody to leave in that case, that's probably not the right way to go, right? Only if they're really resisting.
Yeah, in that case, what I find is the best is first reflect back. It's like, oh, I hear you're just really tired of this process. You know, it's like you're just really wanting so that they feel heard. And then you could say what you just said. It's like, we've agreed to this, can we just continue? And then if they argue, you kind of reflect back a little bit, kind of bring, and then say that, be firm about this is a process, everyone sort of agreed to it. And that usually brings them, back into it when they feel heard. So.
Yes, very important, the reflecting part there.
Do you ever get where there's people who just are always passing? Like I could understand passing once if you didn't want to join that particular dialogue, but if somebody is sitting in the circle and passes for the 2 hours, which kind of makes everybody else feel uncomfortable, how do you handle those kinds of situations? Is it better to just let them sit and listen?
I think the passing is you have them select someone, say, hey, I don't really want to speak. And then they can, if somebody reflects that, so they stay within the process. If they only want to say that, they're welcome to, as long as they're staying within the process. It's like, oh, I don't want to speak. I don't want to be chosen. Unless they're, they have, I've had people who are just like mentally, physically having some real issues, and then they almost need to leave, or we kind of leave them out. But otherwise, they're there to do the process. So I do always try to bring them back into the process, even if it's just, passing. Yeah. But
okay.
we do want to get feedback with the last 3 minutes for Gwen, if anybody else has something for Gwen.
I thought you handled it pretty good. I mean, particularly when we had technical challenges for Olivia, the jumping in, it felt seamless to me. So that was pretty cool, actually. I wouldn't have thought of that. So that was awesome.
Thank you.
That was kind of a new, I mean, I'm looking at it going, oh, okay then. There's an idea. That was kind of cool. Thanks.
The only feedback I can offer is really what happened in the beginning, because then I was booted out. So, but I like the fact that you said you didn't want to go through the beginning with us, and yet you still wrapped it around giving us some little extras that how we needed to be in that process. And I liked of how you actually, here's the sound of what it's actually going to sound like. So it didn't feel like that was going to be something foreign that came into the conversation. I thought that was a great idea.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm a little on the fence about using the sounds, because I think it works great. And if I have to put up the sign, I always want to put it up at a convenient, sort of pause location. So that really takes that decision away from me. What I realize is that I have to be unmuted for that to work. And I'm not sure if that's always optimal, but it's, a minor thing.
Yeah, I want to second the seamlessness, as a speaker that you were following. I really felt like you were tracking what I was saying. Like a lot of times you're a facilitator, I'm not really listening or something. It's like you were right there, you knew what I was saying, and that felt really good. Like, oh wow, she's really paying attention to what I said. So yeah, and that's core. Yeah, that's to step in like that was just like what really needs to be done as a facilitator to kind of take up that slack.
Yeah, I think you saying that you sort of felt like you missed your chance to disrupt made me relax a little bit and think okay, so I'm safe, so I'm back to listening what's actually going on. But no, I'm happy that worked out pretty well there.
We're back.
Okay, you're back. Great. Well, thanks everyone for.
That is too.
Yeah, thanks, Circle.
Okay, well, welcome back. Are we all here?
Sue took a bathroom break. She'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Or well, I can't say how long, but.
All right. Boundaries.
Yeah. Too much information.
Too much information.
Confidentiality.
Okay. All right. And just Sergio, I just put my email in for the rest of you. That's my particular email. I think Lou does it and other people. So let's we'll go on with this, and I'll kind of give you the reference for that. So essentially what we're doing, we're going to have a little bit of two parts here. The first part will be kind of like, okay, so now we've come to the end. It's the same question in the debrief as it was last time. How was your experience? How might it have changed your thoughts and feelings about facilitating? What strengths did you notice about yourself? And in what area do you see potential challenges? So that's the first round. And then the second round, depending upon much time, we'll be talking a little bit more about the things you can do, next steps, and also, creating a culture of empathy. All right, with that, I will start. And Alexandra, you happen to be next up on my screen. So do you mind starting?
Sure. We kind of talked about a lot of this stuff in our circle. I'm not sure that I caught everything that you said, but what resonated at the moment was how to bring it into where I am at the moment, how to use it in my life, I guess, using it in organizations seems like a very obvious thing, but for me, the more the most pressing area would be family. And I was saying that being a member of a family, I might not try and implement it by myself in family because I might need it might be good to have a I was going to say conspirator, I mean facilitator, to get some extra support, because even if one learns to facilitate, one is still a family member. And so it might be good to not go in as like, I've got this thing that I can show you guys, and be kind of like the de facto leader. You might want to say, I'd like this, I've got this thing that I'd like us all to try. So that was one thing that occurred to me. But I've loved doing this, and plan to keep doing it until I get it perfect or I drop dead, whichever comes first. So I have a feeling that I'll be doing it for a long, long time.
Okay, well, I vote for perfection. All right. Okay, Olivia?
What went well for me was seeing that my skills were starting to improve in those 4 sessions, starting off as a newbie. And so because I've been wearing multiple hats here, that's probably not been the best, the easiest thing to do. So I've had on 2 hats, the Charter for Compassion hat and the hat for how could this move into business as a business model. And so what I've realized is that what I'd said in our session is that I have to unlearn old, and I wouldn't even call them habits. It's just the way I've been trained, having to unlearn some of those reflective back techniques and mirroring techniques are a little bit different here. And as I let go of those for this model, it doesn't mean I have to let go of them for how I use them in an HR process, as an example, but certainly here. And that's been a real interesting aha moment of coming into this. You have to come in with a beginner's mind of letting go of whatever your current methods might have been or your experience might be. So that's been something that I've really been thinking on.
Thanks, Olivia. Victoria.
Okay, great experience. Let's see, what did I learn? It was in this circle, I find a way to have fun. And so I think it's, and for me, what I think I do well is to try and enter and be graceful and kind, because I think that when people enter the circle, that if you're not kind to one person, it's kind of can taint individuals. It can trigger other individuals and shut them down. So I'm always trying to be mindful of how kind and gracious, because we're all learning and it's a skill that we're learning. So when we're learning something, just how can we be graceful about it? Doing it. So I've been applying it. I think I told my circle that for my team, we had 1 hour and we did this. I went over the instructions, we went through it. And I didn't have all the challenges like I, on the scale of 1 to 5, like I had here today. So it was smooth. We did 3 minutes, rounds, and it was great. And they said, wow, this was fun. We wouldn't want to do it every week because I have weekly meetings, but every so often to kind of engage. And so, so I see it as a way to engage with my staff and team, and I can see how we can apply it in other areas of our organization.
Great, thanks, Victoria. Uli?
Yeah, at the moment, I do not see how to make some bridge between empathy circles and my work. Yeah, maybe I discover some. Yeah, I have some plans to share this with a person that is also a bit involved with Extinction Rebellion here in Brazil, although it's very small group in São Paulo. But there's at least one person to do a call here and to share. That will be in Portuguese. And then there is my plans with this community in Germany that should in the next month bring together some people, and I hope to do that online. Yeah, although still facilitating, yeah, it's still a challenge for me.
Well, good first step, sounds like. Yeah, good luck. Rita.
Yeah, it was really great to feel grounded whilst having requested like people to provide like emotional challenges and be angry about. We did a topic of like patriarchy and whether you think it's useful or not in the world. So it was like a real topic to be like, cool, you can get angry about this if you want. And yeah, I really wanted that challenge because I feel like that's probably something I feel intimidated about. And I know I'm among friends, so maybe it was like easier than it would be in real life for sure. But yeah, it was good to just give it a go. Yeah, I still think that I don't know if I should mention this now or later, but Edwin, when I was in the circle with you and we had the challenge of like whether the active listener would be modeled first by the facilitator. I still feel some people are confused about that, or there's different things happening in different circles. So maybe we just want to clarify that. And yeah, and I think I also, sense that like, facilitating these circles like and getting used to them does take time, and it's not only like a strategy thing, it's also like a embodied sensing into the energy of the space. I don't know, I find that really useful in terms of allowing people space and time to sink in and feel accepted, and it's all like the little nuances, but that kind of just comes with the doing them more often, I guess. So yeah, thank you. That's probably it for me.
Great, thank you, Rita. Okay, Jennifer.
So I had a really great time today. I was glad we had more time to play and to practice. I know the other day was really great in a different way, but I was able to get much more time facilitating today. And people have talked a little bit about the application of this, and I mean, the wheels are turning, and I'm really excited. I mean, I can see using this in change management efforts as an intervention. To be able to get, staff feedback and have people work through feelings. I can see it in, team building on particular projects. And I mean, it's really great. And I think two of the things that came up, and I think one was the Marshall Rosenberg quote that Edwin had sent out the other day, this idea of empathy before education or solutions or problem solving. And then Lou had actually used it as an example today from Stephen Covey, this idea of being able to hear somebody before kind of moving on and saying your piece. And I think for me, when we started this, I really, really struggled with but there's this other part that needs to happen. When we looked at conflict resolution, there's this other part that needs to happen. But I think what I've learned is just through the empathy circles and the empathic listening, a lot of that resolves itself, which I think is just like really, really incredible. So I'm excited about the application. What I had found the other day is I really struggled when I was wearing, Olivia had mentioned the multiple hats. For me, the multiple hats are the facilitator / participant. Easier for me to be a facilitator, but when I have to be a facilitator and be a listener, be a facilitator and be a speaker, that was difficult for me the other day. I felt like I managed that a bit better today. And one of the things that I noticed kind of happening for me is when I am facilitating, but I am not taking the role of listener or speaker, that's when I start to have emotional responses to things and opinions and judgments about things. And there were times where, I would feel myself, I know when maybe Sue didn't reflect back exactly what Lou had said. And I kind of felt inside myself like, but that wasn't what he said, you're missing this other part. It's really important for me to just tune in to the speaker. And if Lou was satisfied with how he was reflected back and he felt heard, that was all that mattered. So in that moment, that was enough. And I just need to learn to kind of let go of that stuff as facilitator, do a better job monitoring the emotional responses of the participants and kind of, forget my own. So.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Jennifer. Sue? You're muted. Sue. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I've just done. Yeah, the group this morning was fabulous. It was great. It was a nice tiny group, so we had plenty of time for practice and have feedback. I just have loved the last 4 sessions and can't wait to sort of do more really and try and read more and implement more, and it's just a really exciting project, and I can just see so many opportunities. But learned heaps today, and one of the things that I learned that was terrific was the fact of as a facilitator or even as a listener, dealing with somebody who doesn't want to speak when it's their turn. And that happened in our group when Lou was the person who was speaking and he just didn't want to speak. And Jennifer sort of said that, she was finding it really uncomfortable. He needed to sort of move on, or she wanted to go to another group. And the feedback and learning from things like that, that was just one example today, was extremely valuable. It was wonderful. Thank you for both of my group members.
Great, thanks, Sue. Sergio?
Well, the one thing that I appreciated most is the safe space for learning. I did appreciate the safe space. That's I can not say in other words. It's like even when the challenges were higher, there was this relaxed environment of it's okay to make mistakes. and I think it's something that you have built along the time, and I think it's not something that comes up without being developed slowly and gradually with the testimony of you. So it was easy and relaxed to be here, and I'm appreciative of that. That's it.
Thank
I
you,
have
Sergio.
many faces that are not strangers anymore for me.
That's great. Thanks, Sergio. Gwen.
Right, yeah, today was good. I was looking for a little bit more challenge than I got in the end with my group. But I did get to experience a genuine technical issue, which I have to deal with. So I think that was very good practice. Overall, I do feel more confident going forward with facilitating empathy circles. Yeah, I think one thing that is really going to be a challenge for me, and some people touched on this, is when conflict arises in the group and sort of emotions start to rise. But as I expressed in my group, I think learning through doing is great. So I think now I have the tools at least to go in and come back for more feedback and help and support if I need to. So yeah, thanks all for this group. I really appreciate all the practice and the feedback and everything.
Great. Thank you, Gwen. Michelle?
Yeah, I really enjoyed today. It was brilliant. So I found the time flew. So the challenges that came up were just, yeah, I learned a lot from them, and I felt I felt comfortable with them. And I really like Sergio brought up the topic on the things so far that made it worthwhile, and some of the stories that came up just made me really just realize how important it is to keep going with this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, and I think I've gotten all the participants. So if I miss somebody, please let me know. But I think we'll go to David.
Well, for me, this was it was a great experience. This was the first training group I've been a facilitator of. So it was a learning experience for me too. And, it's been a while actually since I've really done circles with these guys. And what was really special for me this time was, first of all, that it's not just one circle where we talk about, some controversial topic and I just facilitate that. Or we go to a protest and we try to get people not to kill each other. This was a long, multiple session engagement with people who are really serious about learning how to do this and are coming from, you all come from, work lives and things you're doing that make that, you're already primed to do this. So I thought it was just it's great. And it's great for us that you're all here, because you're bringing a lot to us. And I certainly feel like that. And so I just want to thank you all. And I did put my email in as well. Like I said, it's my first time as a trainer. Anybody wants to tell me anything, I'd love to hear it. So thank you all.
Thanks, Dave. Lou?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun today. I love practicing and role playing and trying things out and then talking about what happened. That's really fun and satisfying for me. And so I had a great time in our circle today. And much like Dave, I just feel a lot of gratitude and appreciation for everyone being here and wanting to learn and wanting to try to create more of a culture of empathy in the world. by understanding this process and taking it into various, applying it in various contexts, the way I've heard you all describe. I made some notes about things people said during this. And so I have some things to say about those, but I guess I can wait. I don't know, Bill, would you want me to say those now or wait?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to say about what Alexandra said about bringing this into families. So it is a challenge with that thing of, so you're a family member, and if you come in with some authority, then it's like you're creating some kind of hierarchy in the family, and that's a problem. So one way to minimize that is to like have a handout, and say, well, I learned this process, and here's so everyone's got the information, and you could have everyone watch one of the videos online so that they know as much about it as you do, and then say, like, I'm not the facilitator, it's like we're all doing this together, and so everybody's the facilitator, not just you. That's one way to frame it. And another would be that for the first time the family does it, to have someone else there that's not you, just to introduce it to the group. And so you could reach out to anyone in the class to do that, or one of us. And I would say, I mean, I'm kind of saying this for anyone who is here that's wanting to bring this process into a group that they have, and they think it would be better to have someone from outside bring it in initially. That's something I'm certainly willing to support you with. And I would imagine the other trainers are too, but I'm just saying that I would be willing to. And that's something we've done in the past. We recognize that that's a thing, that having someone that you can bring in from outside is helpful. And that is one of the ways that we help each other, is by being an outsider and supporting people that way. So we're definitely in for that. So Victoria talked about gracefulness, and and others too said something about kindness and, responding to people with kindness. And I just think that that's part of the culture of empathy that you're establishing, is kindness, and I would say acceptance. One of the values that we've kind of identified already is acceptance, which means, Sergio talked about this, being able to make mistakes, having created an environment where people feel free to make mistakes. And the empathy circle should be that too. People should know it's okay to make mistakes, like if they don't get the reflection right or whatever, they go over their time, that is met with compassion and kindness, and that's part of a culture of empathy. So I just wanted to point that out, that's you actually create that the way that you respond as a facilitator, that grace and kindness is one of the ways to help establish that. The other thing I wanted to say about so one of the main things about bringing this process into groups that, like work groups, where they might object to the process, like having to listen and wait until they speak because the normal flow of conversation is upset. One of the key things you could tell people is, well, you can write that down, and when it's your turn, you can say it. So I found that that's a key, like, little bit of helper, for people who are objecting to the process, the structure of it, is to say, well, yeah, I understand you're saying that, have a piece of paper and write it down, and when it's your turn, that way you don't have to worry about forgetting it. And that really helps. And for conflict, someone mentioned bringing up conflict in the circle. There are some additional things, little bits of structure you can add to the circle to actually deal with conflict. And, I'd be happy to, if you come to the facilitators circle on Fridays, that could be a topic that we could talk about if you wanted to understand how to do conflict or handle conflict in circles.
Can you say a bit about that now, just a summary? So I feel like that's something that Or I don't know if that's a long.
I guess
extra
I could
day
say
training.
I could say two things. So one is, if people that are in a circle with you are getting in conflict because they have different opinions and they like can't wait to speak because they feel so strongly about what's being said, that you just have to be very firm about holding the process and telling people when it's your turn, you will have an opportunity to speak, and kind of reassuring them and telling them to write down things if they're worried about forgetting it. But part of the strength of the process is that waiting means that people have a chance to cool down before they speak. And that's actually one of the strengths of the process. The other is that and the other thing is that people might have trouble reflecting someone else back if they have really strong disagreements with what they're saying. And I would say that, and your role as facilitator will be to try to support the reflector in actually being able to reflect back even though they disagree. So reassuring them that they're not agreeing with the person, and that maybe can they reflect back just a little bit of it. Like if they can't reflect back the whole thing, is there one piece of it that they could reflect back? And that way you begin to get them doing it. And then if they really can't at all, you could reflect a little bit of it. And if that's correct, then you could say, could you just reflect back that piece? And the other would be to allow someone else to become the reflector if they really can't do it because they're just too upset. Allow someone else to become the reflector so that they don't have to be reflecting it back. Those are a few of the strategies for dealing with hot topics. Not so much people who are actually in conflict, that they have some kind of harm that's happened between them outside the circle, and they've come into the circle to deal with it. That's kind of a different situation than just you have a really hot topic and people have really different thoughts about it.
Okay.
So that's a few things.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. That was great. Edwin.
Okay, yeah, I really appreciate the community of practice. It's just really enjoy getting together on this topic in this process, sort of in this, with this culture of empathy, and to be building and having this community of practice where we are working together, sort of exploring and building and continuously iterating on it. In our circle, we talked about what our experiences were and how we would improve on it and where we were going to use the empathy circle process. We sort of did a bit of exploration on that, and a lot of different ideas, came up. For example, maybe spreading the time over 4 weeks instead of, so compressed. So you have more time to sort of integrate what you've learned. You have more time for doing the empathy buddy calls. It's easier maybe for scheduling. So that was something that I took away. There was something about unlearning the listening. We've learned different listening ways and this takes a little bit of unlearning sometimes to unlearn how we've maybe a bit more on, how do you, what are those things that we've learned and how do we sort of undo those? So in terms of this community of practice, going forward, we have you can schedule your own empathy circles like people have talked about here. You can join our facilitator support group, and that we have that web page on the website, for all the resources for facilitators support group, different ways you can get support. And this was the first cohort where I created like this website for it. So I'm really excited about sort of iterating on that, refining it, getting it more and more refined. And also we have our first module here, module 1 with 4 sessions, looking to expand that. We have a design team, a couple design teams to build out 4 sessions, 4 modules, 16 sessions. And I know, you know, Sue has been interested in working together on that, and I'm sure Rita, et cetera, others. So you're welcome to join that. And I'll send out a link, you know, for the how to get involved in that. You can join our Friday support group, and it's a place to talk about how to join, you know, a design team. And some of the future modules would be, you know, one, maybe going deeper. How do you go deeper to hear more deeply into feelings and the underlying feelings that people desire or their needs? So that there's another module like to create on how to host an empathy cafe. So what we've been learning here is how to just hold a circle with, you know, 2 to 7 people or so. An empathy cafe is where you bring in pretty much any number of people, and you have a bunch of facilitators, and you divide, you know, into subgroups, I mean, into circles. So there's a whole process for how do you organize and convene and set all that up. For example, this Sunday, if you want to get a bit of practice in that, we're having a empathy cafe with a group called the Mimetic Mediators. So I put out a call. So, and you know, a bunch of facilitators came and kind of helped set that up. We had like 40 participants, you know, divided into 8 circles, I think it was. Another module that we want to design would, you know, be great if you want to work on these too, is a train the trainer. So we want to put Lou and Bill out of work, where you take over, and hold these trainings for facilitators, you know, so that you can, you know, so you can kind of spread the practice. I think I checked it out, like there's 4 of us facilitators. We're doing 3 people each, you know, have 3 trainees that we're doing. If that kind of spread every week, it would take us 2 years. If everyone started training the trainers and spread that, and we'd be able to train 9 billion people. So we have 1 billion extra. So that's something, you know, to really spread this practice. So, you know, we want to create a train the trainer for training for that. And then an empathy circle in context, you know, how do we do it specifically in families, education, work, you know, how do you, in those specific contexts. And then for conflict resolution, maybe another module for restorative empathy circles. There's a whole process for how do you really take it into, you know, really difficult conflict. So that's sort of a pathway forward that, you know, well, I'll send out links, you know, after this call is over to how you can get involved in those different projects. So I think that's it for me, Bill.
Sure, thanks, Edwin. And we'll get back to that a little bit later. I just, one thing I did, first of all, I want to express, as Dave and Lou, and I'm sure Edwin did too, just how much you've given to us, and how just your dedication and coming here really helps. I mean, for me, it's deeply appreciated. And the other thing is I wanted to clean up is that somebody, I know Edwin reflected to me, is that the facilitator is first speaker. And if I said that, I'm sorry, I misspoke. What I really meant to say is that sometimes if people don't seem to they haven't seen the video or they don't seem to get it in the how-to, then you can use, the facilitator can be first listener or some other experienced person in the group to role model the process. So that's what I was trying to say, if inelegantly or unclearly. So that's something you can employ if you wish. I'm really excited about what people have talked about as far as, you know, next steps, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I want to let you know that I've been very interested in putting it into schools. I've actually presented it to schools, and then there's quite a few hurdles that you have: time, focus of students, and things like that. I won't get into it deeply, but I believe that I've come up with a strategy to address those things. First, essentially embedding it into state-approved curriculum, and then taking it out as a standalone practice. So if you're interested in that, there's my, you know, paddling man. I'm a kayaker. And, you know, I welcome you to get it, pick my brain, use it for however you wish. and I would also be happy to co-facilitate or help you with that. Okay.
Can I say
So
something?
expression.
Can I say something, Bill?
Yeah, sure, Lou.
I wanted to add to what Bill said about the facilitator being first listener. So if you're working with a new group, there's great power in being the facilitator being the first listener. So because it does two things. One, as Bill mentioned, you get to show what reflecting is like. But the second is it means that you're then the second speaker. And you, by speaking, you have a chance to kind of set a norm or send a signal in the group about the kind of sharing that can happen in the group. So when I speak, when I'm the second speaker, I always, share something about myself, or I share something personal, or I make sure that I include my feelings about whatever I'm sharing, that I say something about that, because something that happens in a group is people get signals for like, what do we do in this group? What is this group about? And it isn't until someone discloses something about themselves that there's a cue for, this is a safe place to share feelings. And so you are helping to set a norm by doing that. And so, so I just wanted to acknowledge that, that aspect of that.
Great, thanks, Lou. Okay, and so one of the things that we really want to, as Edwin said, that he won't rest until 9 billion people around the world have learned this. Of course, he's going to have to wait for a lot of people to procreate so they catch up to the Empathy Circle. So that should be fun. But we do want to, and so one of the things is that, so why is this different from other techniques, or what are we doing? Because the Empathy Circle is a basic part of building a culture of empathy. So to kind of leave you with some sort of, just as food for thought, I just wanted you to imagine you're walking down a street where the culture of empathy already exists. How might things be different than they are now? And as and that's something to flesh out. We have a few minutes, maybe a few people want to say a few things. I don't want to take too much of your time, but that is something just to kind of leave you with, that we're trying to build a culture of empathy. This is not like just a standalone practice, and that hopefully we can see everybody listening and reflecting. Okay. And that's it for me. I don't know, Lou, Edwin, or David, do you want to say anything else to send us off? No, okay. Then I'll just recapitulate that, we have this Friday, we have a regular cafe at 10 a.m. Pacific time, the same Zoom room. And then a half an hour later after that, we have what Lou's talking about, which is the facilitator support group, which is 4 facilitators. You get 15 minutes to talk about whatever you'd like to talk in whatever kind of format you'd want to talk about. Edwin doesn't stop. He has circles like every minute of the day, every day of the week. He probably has one right now after this. I don't know. He's a madman. In an empathetic way. So I'll leave it like that. Edwin, any other kind of last thoughts?
Take the training again. I was hearing all this sadness. You just take the training again. It never ends.
Okay.
Because if you do it a couple times, do it several times, then you can become a facilitator and you just keep it going. So there's no need for sadness.
Yeah, and I'll also say, Bill kind of said this, but the Friday support group is the place for ongoing support for learning and facilitation. So you can bring challenges there, you can bring concerns there, you can bring, we can role play there, situations there, or whatever. You can get advice there from other people with experience. Yeah, so you can take the training again, but that is also the spot where it's our intention to provide ongoing support and learning for facilitators to learn from each other.
Yeah, and I guess I have one thing I'd like to add, which is that the subject of patriarchy came up today.
Oh, right, yeah.
And also, you know, we were asked the other day, why is it it's all men doing the facilitating, doing this training, and there's really no answer, but there's only one solution. So come help us.
Right.
Those of you who are not men.
Yes, guilty. But also, I do want to make sure we have two excellent facilitators that are in Europe, Martha and Carolina, who also run an excellent training. And you might want to take their training, you know, as well. It's free. It happens, the times are a little bit adjusted, but that does exist. So, okay. I think we're.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right.
Twinkle fingers.
Twinkle fingers. All right.
Good photo for the group.
Okay.
Yay.
Yay. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you,
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Cohorts, see you next
Thank you.
circles.
Yeah.